When it comes to software engineering or just work in general, one of the best things you can start getting into the mindset of is identifying your current workflows and finding ways to optimize them to reduce the amount of boring stuff that you have to do. So for example, I run this YouTube channel. I often record videos and then I will go and edit them in Premiere Pro. But at some point I need to go and create YouTube titles, which I use ChatGPT for. I need to create thumbnails. And finding a way to basically automate the thumbnails and the titles can just help me produce more content and not have to worry about the boring stuff, right? I don't want to have to think about thumbnails. So what I'm going to be building out today is I have a workflow that I need to automate, okay? So I record a video and then I send that to Premiere Pro, which is the video editing software that I use. And then eventually I render out the video and I need to put it into a particular directory. I put the file in a directory and I want a script to basically run over that directory and take every video that I've created, because sometimes I'll create one for my main channel and one for my side channel. And I need it to output a YouTube title. So I can say like titles, this could be a text file of 3 or 4 or 10 of the top rated YouTube titles. And then I also want to create a way to have the thumbnails. So we'll say thumbnails. And usually I also need 3 thumbnails as well. So I need 3 thumbnails. We can have these put in different subdirectories or something. It doesn't really matter, but this is the overall idea. And in order to achieve the thumbnails and the titles, I will be leveraging OpenAI. So like, for example, we're probably going to be using OpenAI Image 2 to generate the thumbnails and the titles. But then for the titles, I will probably be using GPT 5.5. But in order to do this, I basically need to take my video file and I need to take the transcripts from it. I think we could use the OpenAI SDK as well to get the transcripts, and then I could pass the transcripts somewhere into ChatGPT to get the recommended titles that I should use for this video. Overall, I want to automate this whole process, and even maybe in the future, I can just have it automatically create a draft. So just when it gets all the titles, it can create a draft with A/B testing. I don't know if this is even possible. This could be part 2 of this whole process. So yeah, I'll say like part 2. Maybe I'll do this in the future. But this is what I want to build. Now, in terms of building this, we live in the day and age where if you have an idea, building it is extremely easy as long as you know how to prompt correctly. So I'm going to say, use a dynamic workflow. I want you to create a script that when I run it will go through a directory inside this YouTube Genie directory called videos. And it should take a video. It should try to get the transcripts from the full video using the OpenAI SDK. When it gets the transcripts, you should then try to generate 10 of the top 3 thumbnail titles and put that in a titles.txt for me. Additionally, I want you to create 3 thumbnails for this video. I want you to go and look at in a reference directory that should live inside a YouTube Genie. I will put some template thumbnail placeholder images that you should use, but you just need to basically add in a little bit of text and maybe an icon that describes the video that I'm trying to make. All right, I'm gonna let Claude Code do its thing, but I am gonna grab a reference thumbnail. So let's go to Figma. I do have, for example, this thumbnail. I'll go ahead and just delete that. I will also delete this. This is like the thumbnail I've been using for a lot of videos. I need to get rid of that overlay though. Hold on a second. I will just use this for a reference. I will just use this for now as my reference thumbnail. I'll come back and add more later, but I'm gonna export this and I'm gonna put that in the YT Genie folder. So I'll just make one called templates and I'll just paste this image in. I'll say template 1. I'm going to say template smile pointing there, just to kind of give a little bit more metadata so that when the script actually runs, hopefully it can find thumbnails that would best describe work for the thumbnail. Now, remember when you kick off a dynamic workflow or a plan, like it's going to ask you a bunch of questions. So let's make sure that we have the right thing going. So how should the script produce 3 thumbnails from your template placeholders, headshot, selfie references? Hybrid, local compositing, sharp. Use GPT image 2, which is currently out. Look up the current API docs to figure out how to use it, okay? I found that these models are still trained on old data, so they don't even think image 2 exists. So you do have to kind of remind them that, hey, like you need to be using the latest version of these models. All right, looks like it's done. I'm gonna say npm start, and that should kick off the script, hopefully, to pull in the video and start doing stuff. All right, so the first thumbnail is done. I'll be honest, I don't think this is the correct resolution, and also it looks kind of tacky. So I might have to tweak this a little bit, but at the very least, the workflow is there and I can iterate on it. We do have some titles that are implemented over here Top 3, stop doing heavy work in your API. When your API starts melting, the queue trick every backend needs. I'm not sure how I feel about these. Let's see, why your API needs a queue. I do like this one. Let's go over to my actual YouTube video. I want to make why your app needs a queue, how queue. Scale heavy jobs without breaking users. The keyword scale I know gets views, so the pattern behind scalable backends, I think this one is also pretty good. Now I at least have 3 titles, and that just helps reduce the amount of extra busy work I have to do. Typically, I have to go to ChatGPT, and then I have to go and get the transcript and tell it to generate some ideas for my video. But now it's actually a lot easier. I can just get some titles already pre-made for me. And then if the thumbnails could look a little bit better, I could actually start using those. Oh, I will make one tweak for the thumbnails. I do know that there's a certain resolution, 1080 by 720p is the proper thumbnail resolution. Can you prompt OpenAI to output the image in that exact resolution? And if possible, in the parameters for size, either leave it blank so I can just tell it to give back the size that I want. Go and read up the documentation. There is a way to have it just return whatever resolutions that you want, I do believe. Okay, so this one's kind of tricky because I've seen Image 2 give back resolutions that are based on your prompt, but the API sometimes requires size, so I need to go and have it figure out how that kind of works. Also, it seems to take a very long time to make these thumbnails, so I'm not sure why it's taking such a long time. But we have another thumbnail we can go check out. Let's check out this one. API meltdown. Yeah, I just don't like the idea that's like API meltdown stuff it keeps doing. Stop API work. This should have been about queues, so I'm not really happy with stop API work and API meltdown. Also, I'm not really happy with the text that you're putting inside the thumbnail. The text is way too large. It needs to be the third in terms of visual hierarchy of the importance. The first is the picture of me. Second is the icon you're using. And third is the text that should be above the icon. Also, some of the text you're using, like API meltdown and stop API work, I don't think really describe the point of the video. The video is about queues, and API meltdown has nothing to do with it. So find a better system prompt to make better text inside the thumbnails. That is about it. I just want to show you my process of how you can build up something from scratch using Claude Code. And this is the exact process I use at work, right? Often it's just I prompt, I verify, and then I iterate. And you have to iterate many, many times because unless you sit there for hours making sure your plan is perfect, there are things that you're not going to think about until you get into the weeds of the implementation. And then you start testing it and you realize, oh, you forgot about this, or you forgot about that, or you realize that it pulled in an older version of a model that you may not have known before you kicked off the initial plan, right? I don't know. I like this iterative approach. I have found that it helps me out a lot, but definitely let me know your workflows in the comments below. If there's some other way that you would probably have built this script. Have a good day and happy prompting.